Maybe I should start.
Go on.
No,
No,
I don't know what to
I think
say.
you should.
Yeah?
Oh, tough.
Shall I try?
Neither do I.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket. Georgia and Alex.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Culture Bucket. This is episode 51. I am not George. I am Alex, and today I'm starting, and I'm very nervous. I'm your co-host, Alex, and with me there is the better host, co-host, presenter. Don't shake your head. It's true. You're much better at presenting. George! No, it didn't
Hi.
work. You have to do it. Nah.
That was good. No, that was good. No, that was good. I
Was
liked it.
Did you like
Yeah,
it?
it was good. We're gonna.
Okay.
I'm not doing it now. You're sticking with that.
Oh, God. The editing is going to be awful.
Alex has had
And-
a massive diva moment and insisted on opening the show for the first time. I don't know why.
What are you talking about, George? I just thought it'd be
She said,
weird,
"This is
like-
my podcast. I do it, and you are just a guest, and I'm going to start introducing it from now on." And then
George,
she
we
muted
have
my
been...
microphone and insisted on opening it. It was weird.
George, we have been recording for 7 minutes already, and I've got receipts. I did not say that.
That means screenshots of a chat, though. What are you talking about?
No, audio
You don't even
receipts.
understand your lingo. That's not a thing. There's no audio receipt. You've
Well,
not got
I'm gonna-
screenshots.
I'm gonna make audio receipts, G.
What you mean is you've got evidence. You've just got the normal version of evidence.
Receipts, that's what I call them. How are you today,
No, well,
George?
you're using the word wrong. I'm good.
We haven't spoken in a couple of weeks, so we're a bit unhinged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good though because I needed. Well, last weekend I was working, but I needed some time to come back stronger and more full of energy. Yeah.
What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Yeah. That's it.
Exactly.
How
Yeah,
are you
lots
today?
happened since we last recorded.
Lots has happened. What has happened?
Yeah. Well, by a lot has happened, I mean that Idol's announced a new album, and that's the most that can ever happen
Yeah, that's pretty
in any
exciting.
amount of time. It's incredibly exciting. Came out of nowhere. No, I didn't know. No, nobody knew that Idol's had a new album on the way.
No.
And then suddenly we've got a single, and we're like, what day is it now? The 10th. We're like 4 weeks away from the new album coming out, and
We've got a single.
and 2 weeks ago we didn't even know it existed.
No.
God.
OM God. OM
Yeah.
God. Exciting times.
Yeah, so exciting. Did you happen to listen to the new single?
Yes, I have.
What did you think of it? This isn't quite how we normally do things, but I just want to get.
Well,
right.
I guess we can do. We can start however we want.
Yeah, it's your podcast. We
I-
can do whatever you
Is
want.
your podcast or our podcast?
That's not what you were saying a minute ago before the
Oh my
microphone. just
goodness
went,
gracious me. I enjoyed it. I listened to it a few times. It's slightly different from usual idols.
Yes, please.
I enjoyed it. It was good. I'm looking forward to listening to the album because
Yeah.
it might sound better in the realm of an album. That song.
Well, I think it's a bit of a sort of mission statement of showing how it's going to be, hopefully, a bit different. Because as much as I love Idols,
Yeah.
they can't do a fourth album that sounds like kind of all the ones they've done already. And I feels like they're not doing that. They're doing something new, which is exciting.
Yeah, well, the good thing was once I listened to the song and then on Spotify, it then went back to the latest studio album they released. You could definitely hear a difference. So that's good.
Yeah, man. Doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So what are we talking about today? What is our top 5?
I didn't say that in the intro. That's why you need to do the intro. I'm not doing it ever again. Dear listeners, that's the first and last intro I will ever do.
No, it's a more relaxed, loose start today. It's good.
So today we are going to talk about our top 5 Wes Anderson movies. Personally, one of my favorite director, and even today watching some clips and reliving and reading about him, I had some tears in my eyes. I think he's one of the only directors that brings such joy to me, and I love him. So I'm very excited to talk about it, but making the list was pretty hard. So I have like a page full of like numbers and titles of Wes Anderson films, and I think I've got a list, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm very excited.
And we might have to update the lists pretty soon because there's a brand new film coming out in like 2 weeks.
I know, and I don't know how I'm going to watch it. I need to watch it. Like, I need to get a flight to England and come to a cinema there.
Yeah, because I'm going to go to a cinema and I'm going to watch it on the 22nd of October.
Oh.
I'm going to message you and I'm going to say, I saw The French Dispatch.
Do you think I could get a flight on the 22nd of October, come to you? Is that what day is that? It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
I'm going to do that. Guys, you might have an episode where we're live next to each other after 2 years. But before we talk about our top 5, we have culture catch-up and homework to talk about. Today, George doesn't know what film I have watched for my homework. If I watched 1, 2, or all 3 of the ones.
Oh my God, imagine if you watched all 3 of them.
I wouldn't be here.
I watched one of them yesterday. If you watch the same one as me, that'll be interesting. But I bet.
Which one did you watch yesterday?
Oh, you'll find out during Culture Catch-up.
Oh, interesting.
No, you won't actually, because I'm not going to talk about it. I watched Halloween yesterday.
You watched Halloween?
Yeah, because the new one's out next week, so I just thought I'd go back and watch one of my favourite films to prepare.
Cool.
What
exciting.
Kill you makes you stronger,
Cool. So let's start with culture catch-up. Are you ready?
No.
Oh.
Before we do that, let's say that we are going to do a best of the year episode coming up in a month or so, and people should send in their lists of their favourite things of the year, be it films, albums, games, TV series, whatever you'd like, top 5s, top 10s. We had some awesome, wonderful lists from listeners last year that were delightful to read out, so it would be lovely to get some of them again. So putting the call out early, give you time to send those in and give us some audience emails to read out, which would be a delight, please. And thank you.
Where should they send them to?
They should send them to us. You're the host. You tell them where to send them to.
That's why you need to do
they should look in. You should look in the show notes for this episode to find links to all our social media channels, and you can DM us on Instagram with them, or you can email them to us, or you can let's say email them to us. That'll be the best way to collate them.
Yeah.
But if you want to comment them on social media somewhere else, we'll try and collate them as best we can. Whatever's easiest for you. I don't want to put any impediments or barriers in the way of you contributing to this podcast, because I like you a lot, and I want you to have your voice heard. Right, sorry, Alex, you're letting the episode get away from you with your hosting this week. I have to say,
I'm not doing this hosting ever again. I don't like it.
This is culture catch-up time. This is where we talk about what we've watched, what we've read, what we've listened to, and probably some other stuff. Culture catch-up time.
So today I'm starting culture catch-up, and I'm going to talk about a film, a couple of documentaries, and a series I finished to watch, and an album recommendation, which was an album surprise recommendation. But so first I'm going to talk about the film. So I watched a film directed by Takashi Miike, a very incredible Japanese director that really likes violence. And the film is called First Love, or in Japanese, Hatsukoi. It stars... The only person I knew in the cast was Becky. I don't know if you know Becky.
Nope.
She's a Japanese talent that got cancelled because she had an affair with a married man. Classic story where the woman gets cancelled, the man carries on in his way, and this was kind of like a big return for her, and it's kind of nice to see her. She's one of classic Japanese talents that is squeaky clean and very perfect, but then she had this affair, and everybody's like, "You're not as nice as we thought you were." And then she comes back in this film where she plays a crazy person. And there's a few, there's the main actors are Masayuki Deai, Mami Fujioka, Sakurako Konishi, and Mataka Kubota, and many others which I don't know. And it's a film about a young boxer who he's very successful but hasn't got many emotions. We find out that he was abandoned at birth, and so he doesn't really let people in, and the only thing he can do is boxing. And this girl, Monica, who is an escort, who is the first person that he actually cares about. The reason he starts caring about her is because during a boxing match, he collapses and he gets diagnosed with a brain tumor. And he shifts the way he thinks and starts helping this girl. This girl needs to be helped because she's an escort, because her dad was indebted to the Yakuza. And so to repay his debt, she lives as a prisoner. And she's also a drug addict, and that's why it works, because to pay her dad's debt, she sells herself, but also she keeps going in debt by abusing drugs. And I think the drug is meth, very popular drug in Japan, which you wouldn't think, but it is. Did you know that?
No, but I don't know much about Japan's sort of drug world.
And so in this film, there's the Chinese, there's the Japanese Yakuza, and there's one family in particular, plus the Chinese mafia, and it's a film about these two that meet randomly, and the Japanese and the Chinese mafia, well, the Yakuza and the Chinese mafia fighting each other for this drug thing. It's a crazy film. There's violence, there's blood, there's overacting. Takashi Miike is famous for his over gory kind of cutting head Yakuza stories, and this is with it, but also it is a comedy, and I thought it was really enjoyable and really fun, and over the top. And I think this film works because there's some really over the top acting, and it doesn't feel real, and most of the things that happen when a head gets chopped off is you kind of laugh rather than cringe. And the film is so insane that towards the end there's a scene where they could have either done it with stunt work, but I think it would have cost too much money, so they did kind of like a cartoon scene, so it would just be like they didn't have to like invest too much money into this like crazy stunt, and that I thought that was hilarious. I know it sounds silly, but it's with this film you just have to be open to anything happening, and that's why it's really enjoyable to watch. You look perplexed.
No. It sounds good. I was just looking through Takashi Miike's filmography. He's made over 100 films, which is bonkers.
Yeah. And he didn't even want to be a film director. I think he wanted to be a he wanted to like be a motocross person, and then
Sure.
but he had to go to university, and he enrolled in film school because there weren't any
Motocross
exams.
schools.
No, there weren't
Nothing,
any
go on.
exams, so you could just go in, get his degree, and leave. But then he got really into making films and making really violent and gory films and funny. So he wanted to kind of like be a little bit controversial. It's fun. It's a fun film.
Yeah, he's good. Audition is a great movie of his that I love.
Oh, you know him then. Very good, very
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Ah, well, I don't have to explain anything then. And then I never spoke about it in the on the podcast really, but I've always, I don't know, maybe I found it a little bit embarrassing, or maybe I shouldn't because it's quite voyeuristic, but I'm a big fan of true crime. And the other day, this Netflix documentary just popped up and I watched it. And I was like, it just massaged my true crime fandom, which is
yeah.
crazy. You shouldn't like true crime because it's totally weird, and it's not weird, but it's kind of like a voyeuristic way to like, what is happening?
It's just being honest about the human condition though also, isn't it? It's not, I don't think people should feel bad about enjoying true
No,
crime.
they shouldn't feel bad. No, I'm not saying people should feel bad. I feel bad about it because
You
I feel
shouldn't feel bad about it.
okay,
You should be
because I feel
less-
like I'm like, why do I want to know about these people's lives? Why do I want to know
Because
about
it's
people getting
interesting.
killed? I know it's interesting, but it's so voyeuristic in a way. But
It's no more or less voyeuristic than football.
yeah, but in football, nobody dies in a weird way. But yeah, there's this Netflix documentary called American Murder: The Family Next Door.
Oh,
you
is
heard
this
of it?
about Chris, the Family Annihilator?
The family in Frederick, Colorado, is the Watts family.
Yeah, Chris Watts. I've not seen the documentary, but I know the story.
Okay, so I was like, oh no. And what attracted me to it was the fact that it's all archival footage. So there's no people talking about it or having an opinion about it. It's just archival footage of like social media from the wife.
Archival footage.
Archival. Oh, sorry.
Archival.
Archival.
There you go.
Archival footage. Or
Sorry.
that's fine. I don't. Whatever. So social media posts from the wife, the wife was kind of like always on social media. The police recordings, text messages, home videos, and it's a documentary just on that, and I really liked it because it felt more real than other true crime documentaries, because other true crime documentaries, there's always somebody that gives an opinion and says this was this, but this was just real footage, and I was just like, oh my god. And I actually gasped at one point. I was like, oh, when when he makes a confession when he's at the police, when he says something, and I was like and it was
Is this where?
eh
Is this the case where he put them in plastic tubs and buried them in the desert?
Well, he alleged, like, what happened was, so the wife comes back at 1:51 in the morning from a business trip, and that's the last time that her friend sees her. And there's the footage of, and also the fact that there's so many cameras in America, it's crazy. So there's the footage of her walking in the door at that time, which everybody in that area has got cameras, and so that's the last time that this woman was seen, the wife, and the friend kept calling her saying, is everything all right, is everything all right? And then she disappears, and so the friend calls the police, and the police arrives on the scene, and then the husband arrives on the scene, and then it's just a story of what happened to the wife and the children. So it starts from a story of her disappearing to then what actually happened to them. But it's a crazy story because the wife was, I think that the wife wanted to be an influencer. So there's so many videos of them having a perfect life. But we know that that perfect life that you see as an influencer is not real, because once you switch off the camera, it's not as perfect. So it was crazy because it was like the perfect life. But then the text messages that she was sending her friends were not as perfect as the life that she was trying to portray. And it's a crazy story because you don't know how to feel, because in the end he got convicted for killing her and killing the two girls, her daughters, and he put them in, I think they were like petrol barrels, like the big barrels that you see.
That's it.
And but the weird thing is about this is just like we don't know anything about her. So, for example, when they got married, his parents didn't go to the wedding because they didn't like her, because she was too controlling. So you're like, okay. And so there's a piece of information that comes out of Chris Watts's mouth, and then your total idea of her kind of changes. And it was really weird because I watched Kevin Kneff himself, which is like a fictional world, like a series. And then I watched this, and exactly the same thing happens. Like he could have easily tried to divorce her, but instead, this only solution is killing her. But then we don't know why he killed her.
Wouldn't he have said if she'd murdered the children though?
Well, you have to watch the documentary.
Well, I know the story. As far as I'm concerned, he murdered his wife and children.
Yeah, but according to him, he, in the documentary, says, and that's the moment where I gasp, because I kind of felt it could be true, because if she's such a control freak, it's like she killed the kids, and then he killed her because she killed the kids. But I did not believe that at all. But it makes you believe, it's like, oh. And so the narrative changes, but he probably killed the girls as well. Most definitely. But why? And that's the thing. That's the link missing. Why did he? Why? Why did he not just divorce her?
It is a sort of recognised type of crime, the family annihilator. It's not like an isolated case, if you see what I mean.
No, it does not. But they did the what for me is the weird thing is just that he was having an affair with somebody else, and the only solution that he had to be with this woman was to kill his wife. But you go to prison, so you're that's a stupid thing.
Yeah, but I think he was arrogant enough that he thought he could do it and get away with it.
Yeah. But I wonder if something had happened for him to do that. Not this question. Not that I'm saying she should have been killed. I'm saying I wonder if something happened that triggered that. But according to people, like these kind of murders are, according to the police, are kind of premeditated.
Yeah.
But if you premeditate such a murder, you know that you're probably going to get caught, especially now in the age of social media. So you're dumb. And you killed two girls and your wife. Like, you are a horrible, horrible human being.
Yeah, bad times for Chris Watts and his family.
But I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really well done. And
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. It's so voyeuristic though. You go, what? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
Yeah, but I mean, like, true crime podcasting is probably one of the most popular forms of. It's a very mainstream thing now.
It is, and I don't. But I just feel so kind of guilty of enjoying watching people, messing up their lives by marrying the wrong person, then killing them, and then this poor woman being killed by the man that she thought she loved.
Yeah,
terrible.
it's sad.
And why did he kill the? Oh, no mind. So yeah, that was one documentary I watched, and then, and then I watched another Netflix documentary which I had really bad reviews. I don't know why. I enjoyed that as well, and I watched the documentary Britney vs Spears versus Spears.
Oh, right, okay. I don't know much about this one.
Oh, well,
I mean, I know a lot about the story, but not the documentary itself.
Yeah, so it's the story about basically we all found out recently that Britney Spears was held more captive than we thought from her father. And and this is the story basically of these 13 years and how it happened, from her being like the global superstar she was, to then her you know, having some mental health issues, and then becoming basically her father's property with this conservatorship where her father basically decided everything for her. The drugs she took, the work she did, the people she dated, everything. If she could spend any time with her children, everything. And I've read reviews, and apparently people are like, it's so terrible. But I liked this because it didn't have the voyeuristic sense of like seeing Britney shaving her head and all the classic where she was suffering. You know, when you have those bits, it's like Britney did this because this happened, and we all know those horrible scenes. You mainly saw Britney in a good light, in not in a like the voyeuristic light, in my opinion, but you saw her in the person who is suffering because certain things are happening to her, and somebody taking away her rights, and it mainly showed how predatory the media was at the time. The paparazzi were crazy, and it was kind of showing how somebody could arrive to the point of Britney doing what she did, or to herself, or like from the paparazzi pushing her to that limit. Yeah. There are scenes where she gets taken away and I knew that, but I hadn't seen it for years. Her being taken away from her house because she had some kind of, I don't know what happened exactly. And the paparazzi basically attached to the ambulance, trying to take the picture of her suffering instead of helping her, instead of having... And that era of paparazzi, which I don't think is as much now. I don't think people are interested as much now, apart from like the social TikTok influencers who are, they...
Yeah, I mean, I guess that they have more control over how they present themselves to fans now.
Yeah. And they were horrifying. And I feel some people, some reviewers didn't like it because it's two women discussing what has happened to Britney Spears in a very non-voyeuristic way. And I think some male gaze might not appreciate that. But that's just an opinion of mine, because I thought it was presented in a really natural and not one-sided way, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was good. And it was crazy how Britney Spears just lived 13 years in this kind of way, and the fact that it was allowed for the courts to take every right away from her. But now she's not in the conservatorship anymore. She's engaged. She might have another baby. And all of this stemmed from her having a bad divorce from her husband. Like, can somebody not have a moment? And I feel like that was the case. And
it's pretty awful what happened, I think, to her.
Yeah. I thought the documentary was enjoyable. It was good. It showed like the kind of timeline of how things happened. but they never showed Britney doing the things that us voyeuristic people like to see, like her shaving her head, her crying in the bar, I remember in the cafe with her son on her lap,
Vaguely.
all those things that, got the scoop. They didn't show that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was disappointing to some people because of that. But instead they showed Britney being, although all this crap was happening, at the top of her game and being still a successful woman. And then quick album review, which I never thought I would give an album review, but being on TikTok and seeing people talking so much about this album, and the impact it had on people, I listened to the new Lil Nas X album, Montero.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I never thought I would listen to this. I'm not. I like that song that he released with Billy Ray Cyrus, which is
Old Town Road.
Old Town Road. I thought that was good. I listened to Montero, which is his only album, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was a really good, enjoyable album to listen to. And what made me listen to it was this TikTok where this girl was like, oh, people listening to Montero on shuffle are idiots. I was like, oh, so this album has got a concept. And so I listened to it and it's really good. And the last song is with Miley Cyrus and is a beautiful song. And the album starts really like campy and it's got like Montero, Call Me By Your Name, Industry Baby, That's What I Want. And then the album then just becomes a little bit more raw and maybe shows a different side of him. And
Yeah.
it's an enjoyable album to listen to, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. So if you don't really know what Lil Nas X is about, have a listen to Montero. It's not bad. Have you listened to it, any of it?
I haven't listened to any of it other than a couple of the singles, but I've seen it get lots of, like, people have been kind of generally quite surprised by how good it is. I think a lot of people were expecting it to be a bit sort of, he has ultimately started off as a bit of a one-hit wonder, so people weren't sure how he'd do, but he seems like he's embraced it. He's embraced where he is in the music industry and is doing pretty well. And he seems very funny on social media. Yeah. He was posting those pictures of him with like a pregnancy belly on and stuff.
Yeah. And then the album came out and it's like, amazing.
Yeah. So, no, good for him. I like him.
And then I finished the series Kevin Can F Himself. I enjoyed the series. I enjoyed it. I didn't necessarily like the ending. I was expecting maybe like a bigger ending in the sense of like, maybe because I feel like that gives you opening for a next series. And maybe I wanted to like maybe have a finalized something a little bit more final in this one. But overall, I thought it was enjoyable. I liked it. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do in the next season. But I was hoping there would be more of something finishing, and nothing finishes in the first season. But I really enjoyed the journey that Alison and Patty go through, and at the end where you think, they've become actual good friends and they kind of have a fallout, and then the last scene with them is really touching. So I really enjoy that. But
that's why I really liked the finale, because I really liked that sort of moment between them at the end, and I think it sort of reframes it as being more about their relationship than Kevin. And then there's a bit where she, for the first time, they swear during the sitcom style scene that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Those two moments made the finale pretty worthwhile for me. I really liked it.
Yeah. But highly enjoyable series. So and that's my culture catch up for this Where are my F's? Where are my P's? That's my culture catch-up for the week.
Awesome.
I know. I am.
You are. Good.
Yeah.
Cool. So I've got a film and 2 TV series to talk about this week.
Nice.
So, first of all, I'll talk about the film. After 18 months, I think, of delays and waiting and never knowing if we're ever going to see it, finally, the last entry in Daniel Craig's run as James Bond has arrived in UK cinemas. No Time to Die.
No Time to Die. Yes.
Yep.
Your
And
review on Letterboxd was long.
Yeah, it was, because I had a lot of feelings after seeing it. England loves James Bond, which is why I've only got one film to talk about this week, because no other movies come out in the cinema within like 2 weeks of a James Bond movie coming out. Yeah. So like last week, the only movie that came out was No Time to Die, and then this week, the only film that's been brave enough to come out is The Addams Family 2. So, yeah, which I'm not going to watch. So I've only seen the one movie recently because it's the only film that England is like. And if you look at the cinema listings, it's just like 100 showings every day of No Time to Die. We're obsessed. But this is the end of Daniel Craig's 15-year run as James Bond. He was in his mid-30s when he started in Casino Royale, and he's in his early 50s now, so it's definitely probably an appropriate time to pick himself up, dust himself off, and hand it over to somebody else. Yeah. And it was a troubled production. It's been a troubled run. He kicked it off with Casino Royale, which is like probably the best James Bond movie, and spoke of like really good things to come. Okay. And then immediately there was a writer's strike and all sorts of problems. And the second one, Quantum of Solace, is probably the worst James Bond film, which is such a disappointment.
Or Daniel Craig's?
It's without question, it's the worst Daniel Craig film, and it's probably, I would probably say it's the worst. I don't know if it's worse than Die Another Day, which is appalling, but Die Another Day is campy and terrible. It's the last Pierce Brosnan one.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah.
Yeah. Die Another Day is like kind of too over the top and too ludicrous, and like he kind of like windsurfs on an ice tsunami in that film, and so it's a bad movie. Whereas Quantum of Solace has the bigger crime of being boring, which is not okay in a James Bond film. So I think Quantum of Solace might be the worst James Bond movie, which is really, frustrating, because then after Quantum of Solace, they kind of retooled and they came back with Skyfall that felt like, a definitive statement on Bond. It's probably the one that I think it's the most successful James Bond movie in a lot of ways, and people adore it. It doesn't quite hold up to scrutiny after the fact. There's a lot of plot points in Skyfall that are a bit weird when you really sit down and think about them, but it's definitely like an enjoyable one, and it's shot very well by Roger Deakins and Sam Mendes. And Spectre is a bit of a mess. It's the same team really that made Skyfall, and I think they rested on the laurels a little bit too much and tried to pull together loads of different plot threads into one idea and didn't quite.
I enjoyed Spectre. I thought it was good.
Yes, Spectre's enjoyable and I like it, but it suffers from being very long, and it suffers from trying to make everything too connected in the way that like modern films always feel the need to. Like Blofeld can't just be Blofeld, he has to be Bond's like stepbrother, and they have to have like a family connection and stuff, and it's all a bit like
the family.
Yeah, exactly. As we don't need Fast and Furious in our James Bond. Anyway, so Spectre was good. It has one of the best opening sequences ever in a Bond movie. It's not bad by any means, but it was on a downward trend from Skyfall. Then No Time to Die takes forever to get going. Initially, they announced that Danny Boyle's going to make it. They get going with Danny Boyle. Then Danny Boyle quits the movie. There's all these behind-the-scenes problems. Who knows what's going on? And then Cary Joji Fukunaga comes in, who is the first American to direct a Bond movie, the first person of Asian descent, I believe, to direct a James Bond movie. And he is mainly known for directing the first season of True Detective, which is a masterpiece. So, yeah, hopes were high with him behind the wheel, finally. Hot off his Oscar win for Bohemian Rhapsody, Rami Malek was announced to be playing the villain, which was a good sign. Then there were, like, rumours of problems behind the scenes in production even still. They ended up bringing in Phoebe Waller-Bridge to do rewrites on the script to try and make it a bit more sort of modern and up to date after her success with Killing Eve. And it just felt like there was so much going on behind the scenes of this movie. How could it possibly? And then finally it was due to come out and the world ended. And it had like an insane $250 million budget or something. It was basically going to not bankrupt the studio, but it was going to be a bad time for the studio if it came out and flopped because of the pandemic. So they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, despite having already released the theme tune, the Billie Eilish theme tune.
Oh yeah.
Finally, September 2021, No Time to Die lumbers into cinemas at an eye-watering 2 hours and 40 minutes long. This movie is 160 minutes long. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's the longest James Bond movie by about 10 minutes. But you said you liked Spectre, and that was 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So all that being said, I booked my tickets to see it on the super screen, the IMAX equivalent at Cineworld. I got in there and sat down and fell in love with what is, I think, maybe the best Daniel Craig Bond film, which puts it up there as one of the best Bond movies. It opens with a flashback sequence that doesn't have Bond in it, showing Madeline Swan, played by Leah Seydoux, who you know, Alex, from Spectre. She was the Bond girl in Spectre.
Yeah.
Showing her as a child, encountering the film's villain in quite a tense, exciting scene that was a good way to start the movie. And then we cut to present day, and Bond is with Madeline Swan, and they have an entire adventure. And then 25 minutes into the movie, the song plays. It's the longest pre-credit sequence in a Bond movie ever, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and the song by Billie Eilish is incredible. It's a really good Bond movie, Bond, theme song, and I'm glad they went with her because she's a talent and she shows it. And then the movie doesn't feel like its length. I think it doesn't feel like a 2 hour and 40-minute movie. I wasn't bored for a single moment of it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's very funny, but it's also very heartfelt. I think it got tears out of me in a way that a Bond movie never has done before. Aww. It takes the James Bond character into places that even in the other Daniel Craig movies where they've been trying to take him to new places emotionally, it takes him to even further places that they've never ever done with Bond before. It links itself. It has beautiful little touches and moments that nod back to previous Bond movies. In particular, there's a couple of really powerful callbacks to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was a real underrated Bond movie starring George Lazenby's only outing as Bond, which was an early attempt at them to get Bond to have some emotions, and it didn't fully work, but it's a good effort, and I'm glad that they kind of continue to include it in the series. And it's great, and it's all about Bond, which is almost the one big criticism I have of the film is that Rami Malek's villain, Safin, is a bit of an afterthought. His plan, what he wants to do, is never really clear beyond be a bad guy. But
Okay.
To me, it sort of doesn't matter because it's more about the journey that Bond goes on in this movie than anything else. It opens with him retired, living in Jamaica. He ends up getting dragged back into things because of Felix Leiter, his CAA sort of friend, played by Jeffrey Wright, who is back after being missing for a couple of movies, which is a lot of fun. Leah Seydoux is incredible in this film. I really, really like her as Madeline Swan, much more so than I did in Spectre. I think she brings a lot of kind of, heart to the movie. You've got some smaller kind of performances in people like Ana de Armas, who starred in Knives Out, one of my favourite actresses working today. She's not in the movie a lot, but she has one very memorable action sequence where she is brilliant in it, and I would happily watch a spin-off starring her character. along with, you've got your usual Christopher Waltz turns up for a little bit, Ben Wishaw's in there playing Q, Naomi Harris is in there, Rory Kinnear, Ralph Fiennes is M. You've got all the gang is sort of back together. It's just so good. I just love it so much. I loved it. The action scenes are good. I don't want to say any much more about it without spoiling it, but if you are at all interested in James Bond or just action cinema, then you should go and see it. And it is, for the first time, pretty much, they have managed to send off a James Bond actor with a really good, worthwhile send-off that feels like a full stop on their version of the character, which is great, because Daniel Craig's run as Bond has been, if a little bit shaky overall, fairly spectacular, and he's managed to make Bond feel quite relevant in a time when it could easily have been the point where James Bond sort of crumbled away and died, but they've managed to find ways to make it, feel modern and relevant. So yeah, No Time to Die. It's one of my favourite films of the year.
It's amazing that, I don't know, like maybe that they call Phoebe Waller-Bridge to bring some kind of modernity to it. Do you think you can feel her in the film, like her way of writing?
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of lines and scenes that feel like her, and then there's a whole thing where Bond comes back to MI6, but his code name 007 has been taken. There's a new 007 played by Lashana Lynch, who is a beautiful, cool, incredible black woman, and I don't know if that character existed before Phoebe Waller-Bridge got involved, but I feel like you can sense Phoebe Waller-Bridge's involvement in that character and the way that character plays out, but as well in other parts of the movie. And I would like, if they announced that Lashana Lynch was going to be the star of the franchise moving forwards, I would be over the moon, because she is incredible in this film. She's really, really funny and witty, and yeah, she nails the tone of being a 007 perfectly. So,
she's a woman and she's a black woman. OMG, people would go crazy.
Yeah, they would. I know, but
Oh my goodness.
she's just brilliant in it. I hope that she gets to star in. I hope she gets to play more characters like her character in No Time to Die, because she absolutely nails it. She's so good in it, and so just funny and cool. And she feels more like Connery or Roger Moore's James Bond than Daniel Craig does in this film. I think she absolutely nails the part. She's so good.
What's her name? Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch. She's in Captain Marvel, but I don't remember that. I think I've seen other things she's been in, but she's never had the impact in the movie, I think, that she had for me in this film. She's great. She's really good.
You're selling it to me. I might watch it.
Good. It's great. You should watch it. I love it.
Do we know who the next Bond is, or is it still a massive secret?
It's a big secret, but they must have ideas, because this film has been 18 months delayed, so they've had 18 months where surely they've been thinking about what the future of the franchise is going to be. So
what is the chances that Lashana Lynch would be the next Bond? Is there any chance? Or is it really? Because I remember when Idris Elba was, and people went like, "Oh my God!"
So. Yeah, and Idris Elba would be good, but he is too old at this point, unfortunately. I think he's, because Craig started in his mid-30s and now he's in his 50s. I think Idris Elba is already well on his way to 50, if not already 50. So I don't know if he'd have it in him to be the lead in a franchise for the number of years it takes to be Bond. But I don't think Lashana Lynch will be the next Bond, because she's not Bond, she's 007. Whether her character gets more time going forwards is something I would hope to see, but I'd imagine the most likely scenario is that another man gets announced as Bond, and I think Daniel Craig himself has made the point recently, and you can argue whether you agree or disagree with his perspective in terms of like, it's more important that original roles as good as this are written for women to star in. But then the Bond producer, Barbara, which is very, very true, but it's quite difficult. You can't like make a movie that's going to be a franchise as big as Bond. It happens by chance almost. Like nobody planned for James Bond to be a 50-plus year saga of a franchise. The Barbara Broccoli, the producer of the Bond series, produced a film. I can't remember when it came out. I think it came out just before the pandemic or at the start of the pandemic, and it starred Blake. I think it was Blake Lively.
Okay.
What was it called? The Rhythm Section. Yeah, it came out in 2020. The Rhythm Section, and that was an action movie, and it starred Blake Lively as a female kind of action hero, and it was produced by by Barbara Broccoli, the Bond producer, and it was very much people were sort of saying this is her attempt to launch a female-led franchise, and I think it was an alright movie, but it's not. I don't think we're going to see any sequels. I don't think, and that might be due to the pandemic. But ultimately, like, it's hard to know where a franchise is going to come from with something like this. You can't necessarily just say here's a female equivalent to James Bond and have it be as successful. You need to kind of build that or find or be lucky enough to sort of have everything come together in the right way. So I don't know. I wouldn't if they announced that the next James Bond was played by a lady, I would be fine with it. But I imagine it's far more likely that they're going to announce a man, whether that be a white man or a person of colour, I don't know, but we'll see. But Daniel Craig has done good work, and I salute him.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing I'm going to talk about is, we probably won't talk about it for as long because you've already talked about it for a couple of weeks, but I finished it, so I'm going to bring it up again. The 3rd season of Sex Education I finished since we last recorded. Whoosh.
What did you think?
I thought it was great. I loved it. It was a season of ups and downs. I felt that it was pretty dark. It was quite a sad season. I felt upset a lot throughout the whole season of this show.
Yeah.
Asa
Last night I watched the scene between Otis and Ruby on the phone.
Oh yeah.
And I felt heartbroken.
Yeah.
I just
It's
actually
upsetting.
felt heartbroken. Like, I watched it already and I was like, oh. But yeah, sorry.
Otis, Asa Butterfield's Otis continues to be quite a frustrating lead character. He's quite a selfish person.
Yeah.
And it takes him the entire season to sort of go on a journey where he comes out the other end maybe more ready to be a bit of an adult. But also this season, probably the most so far, takes the focus away from him and more broadly looks at the kind of Moorfield. Is it Moorfield? Yeah, Moordale community as they deal with a new principal who is probably the kind of inciting element of the series that kind of brings the most to the table is Hope, played by Jemima Kirk plays Hope Haddon, who's the new headmistress at Moordale Secondary School, and is interesting, very different to Mr. Groff. Yeah. Immediately kind of presents herself as being more modern and forward-thinking and interesting. She introduces herself with a song on stage and is dancing and kind of asks people to call her Hope instead of Miss Haddon. And very quickly reveals herself to actually be exactly the same as any other school principal, but has different ways of achieving her means, including bringing in a uniform. So they have to wear a uniform this year. Bringing in rules against hair dye and piercings and things and jewellery. And ultimately, very quickly turns the school from being, Moordale in the 1st and 2nd seasons feels like an American, maybe not an American high school, because I don't know what an American high school is, but like the movie's version of an American high school that happens to be in the UK is what Moordale feels like in the first 2 seasons. And then the Hope's changes throughout the first few episodes of season 3 turn it into feeling much more like a traditional British sixth form college or high school. And it's kind of interesting. It was quite upsetting to see that come in and to see that Hope's stuff about being friendly and about being nice are all just different forms of control, and she's still just trying to control the students in various different ways, and is very backwards, particularly in her response to like sex education, which is what the show's about. There's quite a horrible scene where they get split along gender lines, which causes a variety of problems because there's some new non-binary characters introduced this season, so they can explore issues around body dysmorphia and gender identity and these sorts of things, particularly Cal, who is a new sort of main character, and they
I
are
love them.
Yeah, they are fantastic. Cal's a really good addition, I think, to the series, and brings a lot of new ideas, and is a great foil for Jackson.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think Cal's introduction does a lot to disservice a character who was really good in the first couple of seasons, or particularly last season, and ends up being quite... isn't in season 1, actually, but he's really good in season 2, and ends up being a bit... I don't know, probably the most poorly serviced character in season 3 is Viv.
Yeah.
She kind of finds her way by the end of the season, but she spends a lot of season 3 being horrible, and being sort of Hope's supporter. And it's a bit sort of, I don't know, it's a bit sad to see her kind of make that heel turn a little bit. But she sort of, obviously by the end of the season, a lot of this drama is wrapped up, and she kind of works out what's important.
But
and
I think because her only
Go on.
goal is to get into a good university, but then she realizes that, and to get into a university that's the only way she thinks she can, and Hope kind of plays with that a lot, and I think that's why she's so horrible.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. But she's a good actress. I like her. I like her in Sex Education, but I felt like she could have been handled, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Being interesting. My favourite character in this series, and now my favourite character in the whole show, is Michael. No, not Michael. Adam.
Adam. Yeah. It's amazing.
I adore Adam. I think he's just brilliant. I love him.
Yeah.
I love every storyline involving him is wonderful, and there's a lot of heartbreak for him in this season.
Yeah.
And a lot of him really struggling to find out who he is and find himself.
Yeah.
And there's a hateful scene that almost brought me to tears, where him, Lily, and who is it? Him, Lily, and Cal are all punished very publicly by Hope. With I don't want to spoil exactly how they're punished, but one element of the punishment he actually can't understand, because he's not done very well in school up to that point. He's trying to turn it around, and he has to ask her what a word means, and it's heartbreaking. It's really upsetting. And then he finds like something that brings him happiness and joy. That's just really...
It's so heartwarming, isn't it?
Yeah, really heartwarming to see it play out. It's great. It's really good. I really, really like him. And his dad, that's who Michael is, has a really isn't in the whole season, kind of pops in and out, but has a really interesting storyline that runs through the season, that kind of lends a bit of insight into kind of maybe why he is the way he is, and why Adam is sort of grown up to be the way he is. And that storyline ended up really in a way that I thought was quite upsetting as well, and maybe didn't end the way that he wanted it to. But hopefully we'll see more of them in the future, because there will be a season 4. But yeah, overall, I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed it. There's so many characters we haven't mentioned. Like Lily is such a great character, and Ola and Lily and Ola are so good together. And there's one episode that opens with an animated sequence that's involving the two of them, which is intense. And a lot. But yeah, no, it was really good. It really if you've watched the first season and haven't continued with it, give it a go. Oh, the only thing I didn't like is I continue to not be able to stand Isaac. I couldn't ever forgive him for what he does at the end of season 2. And I just hate him.
But the fact that he comes clean.
But he doesn't matter, because he comes clean, but he doesn't understand why what he did was wrong, in my opinion, because he says he was doing it to protect her, and that's not his call to make, and it's such a betrayal of trust. And that character is just, I hate him. Okay. Next, last thing for me to talk about in Culture Catch Up this week is another Netflix series, which has come out of nowhere largely, and within a couple of weeks become, I think, Netflix's biggest thing they've ever done. Has taken over the world completely. Everywhere. Like, I live in the UK, and I've never heard people even Parasite wasn't like this. Like, this is it's incredible. It's amazing, how many people I know that are watching this Korean series, and for good reason. And the series is, if you haven't guessed, Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Have you watched any
Korea
Squid
does
Game
take
yet?
everything by storm, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
there's something about Korean things that now I just like, is it Korean? Boom.
Well, yeah.
really
I mean, a
wanna
few
watch
years
it.
ago, it was a bit like that. For Japan had its moment with this in like maybe the 90s and noughties.
Yeah.
Anime
Yeah.
becoming huge, and Japan is
Yeah.
still like that culturally.
Yeah.
But this seems like the moment that people are discovering that Korea has so much to offer the world in terms of pop culture as well.
There's
'Cause obviously
another
K-pop is
country in
huge and-
Asia that it could be like culturally relevant. OMG.
Yeah.
Korea.
But
I haven't
you know,
watched it.
Old Boy came out in 2001, so it's been a long time. I mean, even before Old Boy, Korean cinema was good, but
Yeah,
it's been a long
but-
time working its way up to this kind of mainstream
Yeah.
level. And then, you know, Bong Joon-ho won the Oscar for Parasite, and that kind of blew everyone away. And
Yeah.
now
And then
Squid Game
Gangnam
is
Style before that, you know.
here. Have you watched any Squid Game yet, Alex?
No, I haven't.
No.
I am going to. I'm waiting for the right moment where I just have enough time to just.
Yeah, that's
Watch
fair.
it.
I'll avoid spoiling it then. But it's written and directed by Hwang Dong-hyuk, and it stars a wide variety of people. Who plays Lee Jung-jae plays Seong Gi-hun, who is the lead character, number 456. And the series opens with him in a certain amount of debt, and he's struggling, and you see his mum seems like she hates him effectively. He's got an ex-wife and a daughter who his ex-wife doesn't seem to like him very much. His daughter wants to love him, but I think he meets up with her on her birthday, and he's got no money, so he's played a claw machine until he could win a prize to give her, and he's not even looked at what the prize is that came out of the claw machine, and it's a gun. It's a toy gun that also, it turns out, doubles as a lighter. So not the most appropriate gift for his 10-year-old daughter. So that kind of sets up very quickly at the start of the season that this guy is a bit of a mess. And one day he is sat on a train platform and a man approaches him. And the man, in fact, is played by, I don't remember the actor's name, but it's played by let me see if I can find him because he's only in one. Yeah, Gong Yoo, who plays the lead character in Train to Busan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
pops up just for like a handful of scenes. They call it a special appearance. It's a cameo, really. Pops up as a man who says, "Hey, I'll give you a load of money if you can complete my game." And basically, he's got these two like pieces of card. One is red and one's blue. And the game is he has to. I think the blue card's on the floor, and you have to get the red card and throw it at the blue card so the blue card flips over. That's the game. And he does it repeatedly and can't win and keeps losing money and then runs out of money. And then the guy is like, "Hey, in place of money, I'll accept physical punishment. So every time you lose, I get to slap you." And then they carry on playing it with him slapping the guy. Yeah. And eventually, I think eventually he manages to win, and the guy gives him the money or something.
Yeah.
And then gives him a card and says, "If you'd like to play more games, ring this number." Ooh. And then he rings the number, and he ends up getting into this car where he's knocked out with laughing gas, with sleeping gas even. And he wakes up in a room full of about 500 other people, all wearing identical jumpsuits with numbers on the back, going from number 1 all the way up to number 456, which is his number. And they are being sort of monitored and looked after by people in pink jumpsuits with these black face masks on so you can't see their faces. And their face masks all have a circle, a square, or a triangle on them. And very quickly in the first episode, they end up being taken in to play a game. And the first game is what is known in Korea, I think, as red light, green light. But what in the UK I know is What's the Time, Mr. Wolf?
Yeah.
Where you have to approach somebody who's got their back to you, and whenever they turn around, you have to stop moving, or you are out. And they start playing this game, and it's a big robot that's got its face away from them. When the robot turns its head to look at them, if it catches anyone moving, they get shot in the head. And the game quickly devolves into absolute panic. And That's episode 1. That's the setup of the series, and it's another
Yeah, I've
in
seen
the
that
long.
scene, yeah.
Yeah, that's become pretty iconic now, that scene, I think. And it's another in the long line, which is why I wasn't too worried about spoiling it, because it's episode 1. It kind of everyone knows about that bit now, I think, broadly. But it's another in the long line of like people forced to sort of play games in life or death situations. So you've got your battle royales, your Hunger Games, maybe your Saws if you want to put Saw in there as well. And now we've got Squid Game. I think what makes Squid Game so good and stand out so much, because I did love it. I absolutely, I think it's amazing. I think sometimes something will become very, very popular very quickly, and you'll immediately start getting detractors and people who aren't watching it, and people are like, oh, I'm proud that I've not seen Game of Thrones or Squid Game. And sometimes sometimes something does become huge and you can't quite see a reason why. But I think Squid Game works because the art design and the setting is interesting. People always enjoy these kinds of stories, and the images of all these people in their tracksuits and these pink jumpsuited men are protecting them and stuff, all very quickly feels like quite iconic imagery. And the idea of playing children's games for life or death is a good idea. But what also, and the reason I think it could only exist in Korea, is it's sharply satirical and it's sharply left wing, and it's very much about the way capitalism destroys people, turns ordinary people against each other for the amusement of people who hold all the cards, all the wealth in their hands, and don't have to play the game and get to just watch and enjoy it. And I think it has this perfect blend of being very entertaining, very rewarding. There's fun, there's action sequences, there's horrific scenes, there's all sorts of enjoyable, thrillery stuff in it. But then it is making a comment on debt and on the way that people sort of treat each other, and the way that we're sort of encouraged to turn on each other instead of look at the people above us who are really sort of responsible for the situation we find ourselves in. And it's great. It's great. It does all these things. It manages to be a searing social commentary and an adventurous kind of horror thriller thing. And I love it. I finished it yesterday. I watched it over the course of a week, and it kind of, you go on this journey with it. The characters the characters as well are just so well drawn and enjoyable and fun. And they kind of get killed off in ways that really are quite upsetting, some of them, because you've sort of really grown to love and empathise with these characters. And it's just episode 6 in particular. There's 9 episodes. Episode 6 is, if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's upsetting. It really got to me, the 6th episode.
Ooh.
So yeah, Squid Game is incredible. If you haven't watched it yet, it's on Netflix. Watch it. Watch it. I can't wait. I'm so excited to watch it. When it came out, I was like, what is this? And then it took the world by storm. I was like, oh, come on, Asia. Little bit of more of you. I saw it on a list of things that was coming out in October on Netflix, and I hadn't heard of it. And immediately I saw the image of there's these scenes where they're walking through this like staircases all over the place in primary colours. And that was when there's blood dripping down the walls, and that's kind of the post that I saw. And I watched the trailer for it, and I was like, oh, that looks amazing. I thought it was a film, and I saw it was a series, and I was like, oh, God, another series to commit to. I don't know if I can do it. And I was like, but I really fancy watching it. So I watched the first episode the weekend it came out and thought it was quite good. And then suddenly everyone had seen it. And I was like, right, I'm going to get this spoiled for me if I don't watch the rest of it immediately. So I got through the rest of it, and it's
every time there's something on social media about it, I just like skip. It's like, no, don't want to know anything. I just want to watch it. I got one like half spoiler that made me realise something that was going to happen. And that was kind of annoying. That that there's like a bit at the end that wasn't a surprise to me because I'd sort of seen it on social media. But other than that, I managed to stay broadly unspoiled, and it's great. And just seeing what the next game will be is really good, and it has that kind of really wonderful thing that you get in Korean and Japanese series and films often, where like quite insignificant seeming things will get discussed in minute detail. Like there's a bit where somebody's like, I know there's somebody in this room because I always put the phone down the other way around, so that must mean that somebody's here, and stuff like that, which is very kind of like
of that type
Yeah.
of show, which is great. So yeah, Squid Game's
Amazing.
brilliant.
Need to
And
watch it.
yeah, you definitely have to watch it. And that's my culture catch up for this week. No Time to Die, Sex Education, Squid Game. Done.
Awesome. Sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, do you have anything to show me, or shall we go straight to homework?
That was a long old culture catch up, so let's just go into homework.
Okay, let's go into homework.
Sit down at the back and be quiet and get out your book because it's time to discuss your homework. Now.
So last week's episode we did top 5 horror films, and I had the choice of watching 3 horror films that I hadn't watched, which were Halloween, Hereditary, and The
Well, you didn't watch
Exorcist.
The Exorcist then, so it's Halloween.
No,
or
I
Hereditary.
always, you know why? Because for some reason, The Exorcist, it doesn't come naturally to my head, because in Italian it's like l'esorcista. It's like totally different.
Yeah.
L'esorcista. So it's like The Exorcist. Which one do you think I watched?
I think you probably watched Hereditary.
Okay, interesting choice. And you didn't have to watch a horror film. You had to watch one of my top 5 summer movies, Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing, indeed.
I can't wait. So I watched 2019 film directed by Ari Aster, Hereditary.
I thought so.
I should have made it more like more.
It was the one you were most. I felt like it was the one you were most likely to watch because you liked Midsummer and you don't like slasher films.
No.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
demon possession films. Well,
Yeah. So so Hereditary. I watched it yesterday afternoon in the daylight. Thank God. I haven't jumped that high for a very long time. So it's a family. It's a film starring Toni Collette, Millie Shapiro, Gabriel Byrne, and Alex Wolff, and their family. And they just lost their grandmother, Toni Collette's mother, and we quickly find out that there was something not really right with the mother, because even at the funeral, Toni Collette's character Annie is not really crying, and she starts talking about how her mother was a secretive person. We quickly figure out that the family is a little bit odd, can we say? There's definitely some kind of like odd. You know, the daughter, Charlie, played by Millie Shapiro, who's fantastically scary. I don't know. She just eats a bar of chocolate at this funeral, and you find out.
Well, that was the thing where before Hereditary came out, all the trailers made it look like it was about Millie Shapiro's character being kind of an evil child.
Yeah.
That's not what the film is about at all.
And it's not about that. And when that happens, what? That wasn't supposed to happen. So this film, so it's about this family who, it's weird because you have to just say, to be able to enjoy this film, you just have to say it's a film about a family and the loss of a grandmother. And that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Because anything else that happens because it's a bit of a roller coaster of what the hell is going on? Why? No?
Yeah, definitely.
Acted beautifully by all of them. You said, Gabriel Byrne is not really important, but I feel like he's like the sanity of this film. Everything goes everywhere, but Gabriel Byrne is like who you rely to have a little bit of your heart stop beating so fast. So when he's in the scene, everything is a little bit better.
Sure, I can see
Thank you,
that.
Gabriel. Toni Collette is amazing. You said she deserved an Oscar. She did. She is incredible. Her range of emotions is spectacular in this film. Alex Wolff, there's a scene that is in the trailer as well, so it's not spoiling, where he just like, bashes his head on a desk, and that was like that was pretty intense scene. Millie Shapiro is brilliant. And Ari Aster is an incredible filmmaker, because it's just like he manages to get a clicking sound.
Oh, that clicking
that is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. And the film starts very calmly, and then it's just uphill, and then there's a scene at the end where something kind of bad happens to Gabriel Byrne. The son wakes up, and I haven't like the entire film. I just been a bit scared. But there's a scene that he goes down the stairs, and Toni Collette is somewhere where she shouldn't be. I was like, what? And then there's somebody else in the room that shouldn't be there, and you go, oh my god! And then that scene where Toni Collette disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all of that happens. I literally was screaming. I was like, what the fuck? And it's terrifying. He's a master filmmaker. Everything in that film is beautiful to watch. So intense. You don't really know what she does as a job, but she
just makes these like models, these odd little dioramas.
Yeah, and there are doll houses everywhere, and terrifying doll houses. And sometimes it feels like they live in a doll house. And the last scene where Peter goes up the stairs and finds out what he finds out, that was just so like, oh, this is a vision that Ari Aster has, and you can see Midsummer, it's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. So I like that, the fact that the two films, he has a vision. They're so different, but you know that at the end there's a vision that was going to come next. And I thought it was great. I enjoyed. Okay, so I really liked the film, and I thought it was extremely well made. I didn't really like the ending. I think it could have been.
People always
different.
say that.
It was fine. The ending was fine because I think it wasn't expected. I liked the ending because it wasn't expected, and it wasn't exactly what I was the plan in my head.
Yeah.
And I like that because he took me by surprise. But in a perfect world, that would have not been my ending. But I also appreciated his ending because it's not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I watched it. It's an incredible film. It's not as scary as I thought it was going to be, but I wasn't expecting to jump, having moments where I was just like, OMG, this is too much.
How did you react to the scene with the telephone pole?
I didn't know that was going to happen.
No.
And then you're like, stupid. Of course it was going to happen. Of course it's going to happen because there's a sign on that telephone pole.
Well, that's the thing, is more so even than in Midsummer, like the amount of stuff that's hidden in the background of every scene is incredible.
It's amazing. And when you notice it, and then the telephone pole, and then there's like an engraving in the telephone pole. And then I was like, meh. And then you forget about the telephone pole because it's a telephone pole. And then the scene happens, like, of course it was going to happen.
Yeah.
That one, the bird flying into the window. I don't know why that made my heart race as, fa, 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 fa.
Did you notice when there's a bit near the end where Alex Wolff is in bed and there's a shot staying on him in his bedroom and in the top corner of his room is something that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
How long did, because I noticed, because in the cinema it was a great experience of like, because your attention isn't drawn to it, so you could hear different people at what point they noticed what was in the corner of the room. So, because some people don't see it until it moves, but it's there for the entire scene.
I saw it just before it started moving.
Right.
And I was like, oh! And then it started, I was like, oh no, oh no. It was, I love how the way that he did things with light, because it's quite dark, but you can see enough to notice certain things that shouldn't be there. But yeah, it's incredible, but flipping terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I watched it.
Good.
Good times.
Yeah, very good times.
How many times have you watched it?
Hereditary, twice.
Okay.
Just twice, I think.
Was it a different experience? Was it a different experience watching it another time?
Yeah, oh God, yeah, it's complete. Because like the first time I went in, having seen the trailers, and I love this about this movie, the trailers sell a totally different film. The trailers don't sell the film that it is. The trailers make it look like something else entirely. And something happens, probably even less than halfway through the movie, but maybe around halfway through the film, something happens where you're like, well, what I thought this film was about can't be about that now, because that's impossible. So what's the film about? And it completely blew me away, and I loved it. And I really love the ending. I love the imagery in that final scene is bonkers, and the way they're chanting, and I love it. Second time I watched it, I just was able to look for all the stuff, and then there were things where I was like, oh God, yeah, that was such a misdirection, because like there's a bit very early on where she sees her grandmother in the corner of her room, like very early on, and it's like looks like she's a ghost. Yeah. And it almost makes you go, oh, so is this like a ghost? No, it's not a ghost story at all. That's just a total, that's just something playing a trick on her mind, I guess. Yeah. So I was able to pick up on, the second time I watched it, I picked up on all the things that were misdirections, all the things that were hints at what was to come, and kind of saw it for how well constructed it was. So yeah, it's worth a second viewing for sure.
Yeah, what a film. So I watched Hereditary. You watched a very different film?
I did, annoyingly, because we did our horror movie episode, and I love horror movies, I had to watch, instead of a horror movie, Dirty Dancing.
Come on.
1987's classic.
Classic.
One of the most enduring films of all time, probably.
Yeah?
A film that a lot of people, is one of the classic, this is my favourite films for a lot of people, I think, Dirty Dancing.
Really?
I'd say so. Wow. I know plenty of people, not plenty of people, but I definitely know people who would say it's their favourite film. And why?
Wow,
you chose it. You really like it, don't you?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I know a lot of people like you that probably wouldn't like it. Right, I don't know many people like me that would like it.
No. Lots of people like it. It's a big film.
Okay. Well, that's good. Classic. That's good. It is a classic.
The resort where it was filmed hosts like 3 Dirty Dancing themed weekends every year still.
Watch me now. Pa, pa. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a big. I've never seen it because I don't know. It's a girly movie for girls. No, I don't know. I've never seen it.
Girl.
I've just never sort of had the moment to sit down and watch it before. It stars Jennifer Grey as Baby, not a baby. Mm-hmm. She's about 19 in it, but as Baby, Baby Houseman
as Baby,
and a young woman who goes to stay in a resort for the summer with her family. Her dad's a doctor. Her mum is a mum, I guess, in the tradition of American families. I don't know if the mum is given a career to have in this film, but she has a mum and she has a sister, and the 4 of them have gone to stay at is it the Kellermans? Is that the name of the resort? I think it is. Yeah, Kellermans. It's an upscale resort in America somewhere, owned by Max, who is the friend of the dad. And the other lead character in the movie is Johnny, played by Patrick Swayze
Yeah.
one of his many iconic roles alongside Ghost, Point Break, Roadhouse. This is one of those films that he is just most well known for. And as you described it in our best summer films episode recently, you know, in this resort they have dancers that are there to entertain the guests, there to flirt with the daughters, but nothing more. And
No.
whereas I think the waiters are all plucked from they're all like uni students having
Yeah.
so they're the ones that are meant to like actually romance the daughters. It's an odd setup, but
It
seems
is.
to be the
It is
film.
pretty odd.
So it's meant to be like you know, flirt with the dancers and then marry the waiters. That's the
Yes.
vibe at Kellerman's.
Yeah.
But one of the waiters is Robbie. Ugh. Don't like Robbie.
No, he's a dick. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a total nobbin. So they go to stay at the resort. Johnny is a dancer, and they very quickly, Baby is involved in dance classes, and they're doing very kind of traditional dances and etc. And then one night she wanders up to the she seems not very happy. She doesn't really like this environment of kind of wealthy people, you know, being quite bland. She wanders into the employees only area and sees all of the dancers dirty dancing.
Dirty dancing.
Doing dirty dancing. And she kind of gets sucked into that world. She ends up getting involved because she has to help. It's quite a progressive movie in some ways, although it doesn't say why specifically. Penny, who is one of the lead sort of female dancers, it transpires that she's pregnant and she wants to get an abortion. Yeah. And I don't think the movie judges her too much for this.
No.
Which is quite, for a movie from 1987,
an
American film, considering Texas at the moment, I think that's quite good.
No, I thought it was amazing. And the dad doctor, he doesn't judge her. He doesn't judge her.
Yeah. So,
which is amazing.
Yeah. So she basically, but it's set in this, I didn't actually realise until I was reading about it, it's set in the 60s, it's not set in the 80s when it was made, it's set in the 60s, when it would have been even more difficult or illegal even for a young woman to get an abortion. So
I think that's why Yeah,
so an appointment is made with a shady man for her to have this procedure done. And the film never actually says what it is, but it's pretty clear what it is. And the only time she can get an appointment is when she's meant to be dancing with Johnny at some other hotel. So who steps in to dance with Johnny? It's Baby. Hence, that's the inciting incident of the plot. Johnny and Baby are forced to spend a lot of time together as he teaches her how to dance. He doesn't like her very much. She likes him. Maybe he'll thaw. Probably he will, on account of it being a romantic comedy. Although apparently Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey hated each other.
They hated each other during the filming.
Isn't that fascinating?
Which, in a way, it doesn't show, does it?
No, not too much. Apparently, they were struggling with it, and they had to show them the screen test they did and be like, look at the chemistry you had. You need to find this again. And then they were able to sort of work it back and get it. But I think there's one scene, apparently, where Jennifer Grey is giggling a lot and Patrick Swayze looks quite annoyed. And that was just genuinely Patrick Swayze being annoyed with her because she was meant to be being quite, seductive or whatever it is in the scene, and she can't stop giggling at the way he's kind of tracing his finger down her arm. But they end up leaving it in the movie because it works better as that sort of her kind of giggling and him looking a bit annoyed about it is kind of more appropriate for the characters. Yeah, it works. So so the thing about this film is it's not the sort of film that I go out my way to watch. On account of there's I don't think there's any murders or killings in it at all. I don't think there's even one.
No, the dancer nearly dies because of a dodgy abortion.
Yeah, but then the doctor saves her, which is good. I'm glad that she doesn't die. And then there's some light wallet theft near the end, but that's about as dramatic as things become.
Yeah. There's a storm.
There is a storm for no particular reason, but there is a storm.
There is a storm. That's pretty dramatic.
Sure, storm does happen.
With this song, she's like the wind.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
How many times have I seen that film?
I don't know, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And it culminates in the way you'd expect, with something happening to drive them apart, and then Patrick Swayze comes back and he says
Yeah.
nobody puts baby in a corner.
Nobody.
A line that makes no sense, a line that apparently Patrick Swayze hated for good reason because it's a terrible line, but has for some reason become the iconic bit of the film for whatever reason. But Patrick Swayze agreed with me.
Because nobody puts
Nobody's
baby in the
put
corner.
her there. She's just sat there. Nobody put her there. It's a stupid thing to say. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
and Patrick
the dad
Swayze
didn't want her to
agreed.
dance. So she was in a
But
corner.
because nobody's dancing. She wasn't in the corner because she wasn't allowed to dance. The dad didn't even know she could dance at that point.
It's a stupid line that people still remember, and everybody will remember.
Well, Patrick
So shut up.
Patrick Swayze didn't like it, and I'm going to take
Patrick.
his lead. But yeah, he's great. But yeah, he gets her, and after delivering the terrible line, they dance, and it is, it happens. Yeah, so it's not the kind of film I would normally watch ever, but it's impossible, I think, to deny that the script is brilliant. It's very funny. The choreography is amazing, and the performances are really, really good. Like it's exceptionally well made. It's a very, very well made movie, and I can't say anything other than that. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a good film.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah,
I'm so happy.
good. Yeah, it's just well made. It's very funny.
Yeah.
It's got a good lightness of touch. Some like Wayne Knight turns up in one of his earliest roles, who'd go on to play Newman in Seinfeld, and is in Jurassic Park as well. He plays sort of the compere of the entertainment. He's very funny, and there's just lots of little funny moments and stuff, and then it's quite dramatic, and it's got good like characters for you to hate, like Robbie and Neil, who's makes me feel sick. And Patrick Swayze is great. It's such an 80s film though. Like Patrick Swayze is 10 years older than his character is supposed to be, and Jennifer Grey's 9 years older than her character is supposed to be. It's very much like,
and they look it.
yeah, like we're going to talk in a little bit. Inevitably, we'll be talking about Moonrise Kingdom in a little while, and I love how in that movie the characters are the age that they look young. They're meant to be children, and they look like children and stuff like that. Whereas in this movie, it is like a man who's pushing 40 is meant to be like this young dancer and stuff. But it works because Patrick Swayze can do anything. He's wonderful and dearly departed, and he leaves behind plenty of iconic work, including this. And the dance sequence at the end is really brilliant. The way they all come in and dancing together, and then he does the lift, and it's great. It's really
so good.
And
Did
Jennifer
you watch it with
Grey,
anyone? Did you watch it by yourself?
I watched it
sorry.
in bed at 8:00 in the morning by myself yesterday. And it's sad that Jennifer Grey's sort of career was halted by the car accident she had shortly after filming this film, because she's great in this movie. It's sad that we didn't get more out of her in the long run.
No.
It's quite upsetting, but she's really, really good. Really, really, really good.
I like it.
Dirty dancing. Dirty dancing. And Idols make loads of references to this film that I never knew about. Like in the film Love Song, in the song Love Song, Off Joys and Acts of Resistance, there's a line, I carried a watermelon, I want to be vulnerable, which is a line from, I carried a watermelon is a line from Dirty Dancing. And then they cover on the same album, there's a cover of Cry to Me, which is the song that plays during the first sort of love scene between Johnny and Baby. And I kind of knew both of them were Dirty Dancing references, but I didn't know the place. And on Ultra Mono, there's a song called Ne touche pas moi, which is all about consent and stuff. And there's a repeated line in that song, this is my dance space, this is your dance space, which again is taken from Dirty Dancing, when Patrick Swayze is teaching her to dance, and then she's making fun of him with it later in the movie. So Joe Talbot from Idols loves Dirty Dancing, and if that isn't enough of a recommendation for anyone, I don't know what is.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. It's a good film. Thank you for making me watch it.
I'm happy you watched it. Woohoo! Yeah, baby.
Papi Meshi watched it.
Hmm?
Nothing. Go on.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our top 5.
Yeah, buddy.
This week we're talking about top 5 Wes Anderson films.
Oh,
There's probably going to be some overlap because,
yeah.
you know, you just said Moonrise Kingdom, and we probably both have it on our list.
Yeah, I mean, he's only
but
made... How many films has he made? He's made 9 films or 10 films?
Yeah.
Let's go through them. See if we can get them all without
Okay.
looking. Don't look.
So
don't look,
1996.
Don't look.
Oh, no, I'm going to look.
No, don't look. I think we can get it without looking.
Okay. So
Bottle Rocket,
Bottle Rocket, Rushmore,
The Royal Tenenbaums,
The Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic,
Darjeeling Limited,
Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Moonrise Kingdom,
The Grand Budapest Hotel,
Isle of Dogs. So
and
9.
then the new one.
And the new one is the 10th.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to look.
9. Have you watched all 9 films?
Have I watched all 9? Yes, I have, yes. Have you?
I haven't. No.
Which one haven't you seen?
I've
What haven't you
watched.
seen?
I haven't watched Rushmore.
You haven't seen Rushmore?
No.
Oh, wow, okay. Fair
I need
play
to watch
you.
it. So maybe that could be my homework.
Well, you'll have to see.
Like my journey with him is the Royal Tenenbaums. I watched Bottle Rocket, but I've seen it a long time ago. But yeah, the ones I watched multiple times are from the Royal Tenenbaums up.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you love him so much?
I love his originality. I love the fact that you just from the first moment you watch one of his films, you know it's him.
Yeah.
The way that he uses colors. Every film has got like a different kind of color palette. The way that he edits his films. I love the way he tells a story. The way that his sets are. Part of the experience of one of his films is not just the actors, but where the actors are. If you think about the Life Aquatic, how like their boat is just is one of the characters.
Yeah.
And the music, his soundtracks, just everything. I love him. I love him. I love the actors he chooses. I love everything about him. What about you?
A lot of the things you just said, but also something I've noticed thinking a lot about his films now, and having rewatched a few of them over the past couple of weeks to get ready for this episode, I've noticed how much I like his sense of humour and how I gravitate more to the films of his that I think are trying to be really funny than maybe the slightly more dramatic ones. So I'd say that's one of the main things for me is his sense of humour, and also his sets and his art design I adore, and his use of colour and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely his sense of humour I think is one of the things that maybe is a bit forgotten sometimes. Some of his films have me laughing so much. So yeah.
Just the way he does things, it's just like, I don't know, it's just amazing. His dialogues, how he writes things, because also when he talks. When you see him do things, it's kind of the same as his characters, like this quirky outcast. I don't know. Let's start.
Let's get into it. So what's your number 5?
Okay. My number 5 is Wes. This is I love this film because of his set design, yeah. It might not be the one where I remember the story and the story talks to me. I think it's less emotional I felt with as Wes Anderson, but it's the most beautiful that I felt watching one of his films.
Yeah.
And this is the 2014 Wes Anderson film, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Ooh.
So it's the story about this hotel. Well, it starts with a writer that meets this aging hotel owner, and he starts talking about the way this hotel used to be, and it's basically it follows the story of the adventures of Mr. Gustav, played by Ralph Fiennes. And he was a concierge of this hotel called the Grand Budapest Hotel, and of Zero Mustafa, who was a lobby boy, and also his hat says lobby boy. And they become really good friends, and it encounters a death, a theft, and a battle between a massive family fortune. And it's not, I don't remember, like, out of Wes Anderson films, I can remember specific incredible moments, and I can recount the story, but this one, it just, for me, it was the beauty of it. It's just, and the way that the hotel is portrayed in between the years, and like when the hotel was in its heyday, had this beautiful pink colors, and the people that worked in it wore these like beautiful purple uniforms, and the elevators bright red. And then as the years go by and it's not in this heyday anymore, the color changes, and also the aspect ratio changes, and it's completely different. He uses color in this film to signify kind of like the descent of greatness of this hotel, which is beautiful. It's got an amazing cast. It's got Ralph Fiennes, F. Murray Abraham, Adrian Brody, which he's amazing, Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum makes an appearance, Harvey Keitel, Jude Law, Bill Murray, of course. Bill Murray has to be in his films, Ed Norton, Saoirse Ronan, Jason Schwartzman, Leah Seydoux, which she's also in Skyfall. You probably said her name better. Leah Seydoux?
Seydoux works, Seydoux. I don't know, to be honest.
Tilda Swinton, Owen Wilson, and Tony Revolori as Zero. Perfect cast. His casting is incredible, and I love this film. I think Ralph Fiennes is so funny and so comedic in this film, and it's I think is one of his like funniest films, this one. And I think that's why I don't feel so emotionally, because other films I feel like they're really cute and there's some emotions, but this one I think was kind of like one of his funniest films, and it's just amazing. And like Tilda Swinton is this really old raggedy lady that love her.
She's very good at it.
But yeah,
the bit that always makes me laugh is when Ralph Fiennes is in, I think it's in the lobby of the hotel, and Edward Norton comes in with the police, and he just like pauses for a moment and then just runs away.
Yeah,
it's very, because of the way he places the camera, he's just running into the background of the shot. It's very, very funny.
Yeah. And when they're on the train and they're talking about him having having sex with Tilda Swinton, and he goes, she's a tiger. What does he say? She's amazing in the sack. It's like, what?
Yeah, he's very good at it.
You would never imagine these words coming out of Ralph Fiennes, because it's such this refined concierge. But it's so funny. I love this film.
Yeah, good. Agreed. Love it. My number 5 is an early one. It's his 4th feature-length film. Came out in 2004. It is the only one where his frequent collaborator Bill Murray truly stars in the movie, and it is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Lovely.
I think this was the first Wes Anderson movie I ever saw, which I think puts it on the back foot a little bit, because I think the first Wes Anderson movie you ever see, a portion of the running time is going to be spent being like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is going on? Why is it like this? I don't understand. Why is he showing me his boat like this?
Yeah.
But so I think I saw it because 2004, gosh, how old was I in 2004? Like 15, 16? I don't think I quite got it the first time I watched it. I watched it multiple times since. of course. It stars Bill Murray as famous eccentric oceanographer Steve Zissou, who is a kind of broadly a stand-in for Jacques Cousteau, I believe, I imagine. And it opens at a film festival with Steve Zissou's latest film kind of premiering, telling the story of how his close friend and companion was eaten by a jaguar shark, Esteban. And he's setting out to make the second part of his film where he's going to find the jaguar shark and avenge the death of Esteban. And he has around him a wide variety of characters and crewmates, played by people like Owen Wilson as his sort of potentially his son, Kingsley Zissou or Edward Plimpton. Yeah, because there's a great thing where he's called Ned Plimpton and Bill Murray just renames him because he thinks he's his son, so he gives him a new name. He's like, I would have called you Kingsley. Kate Blanchett as a reporter that's brought along for the ride. Angelica Houston as Steve Zissou's wife. Willem Dafoe as his first mate. Jeff Goldblum is in there playing like a sort of rival oceanographer who's fantastic. Jeff Goldblum is a mate. I think this is one of the earliest examples of Jeff Goldblum being the Jeff Goldblum we know and love today. One of the first times a director probably let him just be himself on film. Michael Gambon pops up for a little bit as like his sort of production, like film producer sort of guy. You got a wide variety of other people. I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Sue George plays a crewmate who sings David Bowie songs in Portuguese throughout the movie. Which one of the things I like the most about this movie is it uses Bowie songs a lot, and it will mix. Yeah. It will kind of sometimes it uses just original Bowie recordings, and then sometimes it shows Sue George's character performing the songs in Portuguese. And he actually released an entire album of the covers, which is a good listen. And yeah, it's all of this is going on. It's got a lot. Like there's a lot. This film is a lot. There's a lot in this film. Yeah. And it's got some beautiful. It's one of his first uses of stop motion. Whenever he sees animals, sea life, they're sort of animated in stop motion in this very gorgeous, beautiful way. And it's very weird. For a long time, I thought it would have been higher up in my rankings because I love Bill Murray so much. But there's a few odd things. It's not as funny as some of his other movies, and I find the emotions stick with me a little bit less. Bill Murray's character is quite hard to like. He's like, in a way that in 2021 feels odd. He's very homophobic, very casually homophobic. With some actually quite extreme language, which is unexpected in a Wes Anderson movie, and I don't quite know where it's coming from. I don't think Wes Anderson is a homophobe. I'm pretty certain of that, but I'm not sure what purpose there is to Bill Murray's character, other than Bill Murray's character just not being a very nice person and sort of that being part of the point. But it looks gorgeous. I love the design. I love the little red hats they wear, and the sort of onesies they all wear, and the way that they all kind of are very committed to the idea of Team Zissou, and they all take it very seriously that they are oceanographers, and it creates this world in which being an oceanographer is one of the most important things anyone could do, which is very, very funny. But I find the relationship between Owen Wilson and Bill Murray's characters doesn't quite ring for me, and then Kate Blanchett's character never really truly seems to find a reason to be there. So there's things that don't 100% work, but I think it looks gorgeous, and it's a really fun idea for a movie, and you just get a lot of time with Bill Murray, which is always a good thing. And Bill Murray is at his best in Wes Anderson films. So yeah, there we go. Yeah. It's The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love how the boat is cut in half, and you see everything that's happening in different sides of the boat at the same time, and it's just beautiful to watch. Yeah.
So what's your number 4?
My number 4 is one of his newest ones. Actually, his latest one, 2018. I Love Dogs.
I know you do, but what's the film?
Oh, you played on the game. I love dogs. So yeah, George pointed out that I love dogs also can sound as I love dogs, which I do. Although I own a cat, I love dogs too. And I loved all the dogs in this film. It's funny because it only works in English because in Japanese is Inugashima and doesn't sound like I love dogs at all. But yeah. I Love Dogs is stop motion, one of his 2 stop motions animation films.
Yep.
And the other one is Fantastic Mr. Fox, and is set in a dystopian future in Japan. And I think that's one thing that I really like about this film, because it just goes a little bit, crazy in the Japanese sense, I feel.
Yeah.
There's this influenza going around between dogs, and the mayor of Megasaki decides to sign a decree that sends all the dogs to Trash Island, even though where all the dogs live, even though there's going to be what the scientist says that is really there finding the solution for this dog flu. And basically is a film set in this island, and it kind of concentrates on how this island works with all of these dogs. And Atari Kobayashi has got this dog called Spots, and he's his bodyguard, and Atari wants to go and find his dog Spots, and he flies a plane, the cutest little plane, to Trash Island to find Spots. And he crash lands his little plane, and he gets rescued by this pack of dogs. And yeah. So basically, it's just a film about this dog island, and these dogs need to be cured by the end of it, basically. Yeah. But that's not the point. Sometimes the plot in a Wes Anderson film is not the point, is it necessarily?
No. Yeah.
The point is what the film is all about, and it's a really beautiful and funny film. It took me so long to watch it because I wasn't sure on how it looked. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be okay. And then when I watched it, I just fell in love with it. And it's just, I love the little details that he used for this film. Like at one point he bathes a dog in this like big barrel of like beer, and there's all like the little kanji and all the writings, and I just love the little references that he uses in this film. There's a new addition to his cast, and there's Bryan Cranston as Chief. Yoko Ono is in it, which is amazing. And Ken Watanabe, who we all know Ken, love Ken Watanabe. Still an incredible cast, and it's just a great film. And it could have been, what I love about Wes Anderson is the attention to detail, and it could have been treated in such a different way, but he was so good at not being offensive or stereotypical, or, in my opinion, having lived in Japan and having watched a lot of Japanese films, and I think it works. And he did it so well, and I love it. I love this film.
Yeah, it's great. It's a really good film.
It's just so fun as well. And there's a scene where when their dogs, there's like the dogs kind of like are against each other on this island, and there's this scene where this big sack of something falls, and they're like the 2 packs of dogs are going to fight each other, And then one of them goes, shall we check what's in the bag before we start fighting each other? Because maybe it's going to be pointless fighting each other.
Yeah.
And then they check in the bag and it's like, oh, it's totally worth it. And then there's just like this couple of like, it's just so funny. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love dogs.
I know
love
you
dogs.
do. Stop it.
I love
know.
dogs.
All right.
What's your number 4, G?
My number 4 is an earlier Wes Anderson movie, his second film, one that you haven't even seen.
No.
1998's Rushmore.
Crazy.
Yeah. This is a film about Max Fisher, played by Jason Schwartzman in his film debut. They actually discovered Jason Schwartzman for this movie, although I think Jason Schwartzman's uncle is Francis Ford Coppola, so I don't know how unknown he was ever going to remain. Yeah. But this is the movie where he started his career. So it's basically about his friendship with rich industrialist Herman Bloom, played by, in his first collaboration with Wes Anderson, the perfect Bill Murray. Max Fisher attends Rushmore, which is a private school, and he falls for one of his teachers, not one of his teachers. He falls for a primary school teacher, and he's older than that, but he falls for Rosemary Cross, played by Olivia Williams, and the movie broadly is about that sort of friendship / relationship playing out. But Max Fisher is a sort of iconic Wes Anderson character in that he thinks that he's incredible and he's convinced of his own brilliance, but he's actually a moron. Like there's a scene early on where he's told that he's going to be kicked out of school because he's doing so badly, because he's set up like there's this amazing montage at the start of the movie showing all of the various clubs that he's founded. Like he's the president of the Beekeepers Club and the Fencing Club and the Debate Club and the Calligraphy Club, and like every club you can imagine he's like running it or founded it or did something to it, to the point where all of his actual schoolwork is completely rubbish because he's not doing any studying. He's only doing all these extracurricular clubs. And he acts as if he's sort of 10 years, 20 years older than he is, sort of thing, like very precocious young man. And it doesn't fully feel yet like a Wes Anderson film. He's still finding his footing. You've got a fair number of scenes that are shot sort of symmetrically or just side on, staging the sets as sort of dioramas for the characters to move around in, but not exclusively. Like by the time you get to Grand Budapest Hotel, I feel like every scene in that movie is like filmed like a Wes Anderson scene, whereas in this he's sort of playing around with it and he's doing that, but he's also doing other things and sort of deciding what he thinks his style is. So it doesn't feel as much like a Wes Anderson movie as maybe some of his other films, but it's very, very funny. Bill Murray is hilarious in this film, and you can see why he's continued to work with Wes Anderson, because it was probably getting to a point in Bill Murray's career where he was being offered more and more sort of terrible comedies that he wasn't interested in, and he started looking for them, and that's why he ended up in films like Lost in Translation and then this, and then he continued that collaboration with Wes Anderson moving forwards, which we can all be grateful for, because he's often great in Wes Anderson films. And it sort of set them off on this path of cinema that's continued since. A Bottle Rocket feels like a student film in a lot of ways. It doesn't feel like a sort of complete production. It's quite good. I did rewatch it for this list just to see what I thought of it, and Bottle Rocket's a perfectly good film, but Rushmore feels like a statement from someone who is finding their footing, and Jason Schwartzman's amazing in it. All the other cast are really good. Olivia Williams is wonderful. Bill Murray is obviously perfect, and I wouldn't have thought it would be in my top 5 until I rewatched it recently, and it just made me laugh all the way through. Bill Murray's character, there's these great bits where you can see how much he dislikes his own children who are like these two kind of morons. And it's just funny. It's just really good and really funny, and I'm I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for Rushmore. I think that it's probably one of the more underrated films in his filmography now because it feels less like one of his films. But it's worth watching. It's great.
Sounds. I mean, yeah, I need to watch it. I don't feel feel a bit like a not a proper fan.
I'm sure that's not true, but it is brilliant. What's your number 3?
My number 3, the last 3, this was the most difficult part because I was just like, oh, what? Yeah. So I love my next 3. I love them all very much. But yeah, my number 3 is his film from 2007, set mainly on a train in India. And it's called the Darjeeling Limited.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be your number 1.
Yeah, I know. But then it was painful. It was painful. But I love this film, and is the story of 3 brothers traveling across India a year after their father's death. They clearly don't necessarily get along very well. They're very selfish and self-obsessed, and you go on a journey with them in this train in India. And it's funny, it's tragic, it's extremely beautiful to watch. It's got a cameo from Bill Murray that where he just runs behind a train, and apparently that took a couple of hours to film, but he spent the entire time in India with them.
Wow.
So he just went for that scene, and then he stayed. It depicts a beautiful side of India, and I think it's really deep, and it's all about mental health and family connection. And I just love that film. It's so good. The music is amazing. I have the soundtrack. It's an homage to Bollywood cinema. It's an appreciation of India in general. I just love it. And, the cast is amazing as always. Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, and Jason Schwartzman play the brothers. And then there's, like I said, Bill Murray. Angelica Houston plays the mother who they have to find. And she has escaped, and she's now become a nun, and she lives in a monastery. And then there are some Indian actors. Amara Karan, who's she works on the train and is one of her first roles, and she's beautiful in it. If Irfan Khan is in it. Kumar Pallana, who we also see in the Royal Tenenbaums. It's just, great cast, great music. I love this film. I love the train they're in. I wish I traveled in one of those trains when I was in India. I love their luggage. I think their luggage is they have so much, and it's all in this designer luggage. And I think it was also designed by a famous designer, and they're beautiful. But then at the end, they realize they don't need that, and there's a beautiful scene where they run towards the train. I just love this film. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is one we've already talked about a little bit, the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Awesome.
That's my number 3. I like it so much for a lot of the reasons that you've said already. The cast are so amazing. But also, like we said, it's just so very funny, and it also feels like after 7 movies, he finally managed to make a Wes Anderson film, if you see what I mean. He, more than any other movie he's made, the Grand Budapest Hotel, every single second of the film is dripping with his style. Even up to I think the one before it is Moonrise Kingdom, which is a great film. But there's even scenes in that, I think, because there's so much of the Grand Budapest, so much of Moonrise Kingdom is set outside, he has less control maybe over what's going on. Whereas the Grand Budapest Hotel is largely set in interior spaces, and even when it's set outside, it feels like it's on a soundstage almost, because he's created this world exactly how he wants it to look, and it is just sort of, and I think maybe doing Fantastic Mr. Fox helped with this in terms of him really understanding how to have control over his sets and over his colours and everything he does, to the point where, I love how much the Grand Budapest Hotel feels like no one else could have made it to an incredible degree. Like it is the most of him that he's ever been. And the storyline is bizarre. It doesn't really matter. It's about this painting and whatever, who cares? But the cast, like Ralph Fiennes is just so funny in it. Edward Norton is wonderful, and just everyone is perfect. The only problem with it is there's not enough Bill Murray, but other than that, it's great.
Yeah, there's only one scene with Bill Murray, isn't there?
Yeah, does he play the sort of the guy from the secret association of hoteliers sort of thing, the Cross Keys, whatever they're called? I think he plays that guy, and he's in that one scene on the train, and that's kind of about it. But other than
in the Darjeeling, just him running behind a train and missing the train.
But yeah, and again, I bet he was on set a lot more than when he was filming for it. But yeah,
can you imagine, like every few years you get called as like, oh man, I'm gonna make another film. Let's meet up, all of us together, and just make a film again. You know, Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman, Adrian Brody, you know, Bill Murray, and they'd be like, yes, it's the time. I don't know. That's how I would feel. Yes, Wes, we're here. You know.
I definitely think Bill Murray is, but yeah, when you read about like the Royal Tenenbaums and the way that Bill Murray would turn up on set to protect Wes Anderson from Gene Hackman and stuff, like
from Gene Hackman,
Bill Murray is in love with Wes Anderson, I think, and I kind of love how kind of their sort of relationship is great. So but he's not in the Grand Budapest Hotel much, but it doesn't matter. Also, like people like Tony Revolori has gone on to be really good in things. He's a good actor, and he sort of started here. And I think this is the first time a lot of people came across Saoirse Ronan, who's gone on to be an incredible actress. And he's just so good at finding people. He's so good at finding people. So, yeah.
I think this was the first film I've ever seen with Saoirse Ronan.
I think it was the first film I saw. And then I think Lady Bird came after this, and then Little Women, of course.
Yeah.
And she's great. She's great. So, yeah, that's my number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is 2012 Wes Anderson film about love, Moonrise Kingdom.
Lovely stuff. It is my number 2 as well.
Oh, of course. Moonrise Kingdom. What to say about Moonrise Kingdom? Is a film about a young boy that falls in love with a young girl and vice versa, and they want to run away together, and the town mobilizes to try and find them. He's a Boy Scout, and she just comes from a very strange family.
Yeah, she does.
Where the father is Bill Murray and the mother is Frances McDormand, and they have a very strange relationship. And the town mobilizes, and it's just a story about them running away and a perfect storm. Brewing.
Yeah, I love the way the narrator warned us about the storm at the start of the movie. Bob Balaban as the narrator is such a great running thing throughout this film. I adore that.
Yeah, and you know, new members in the Wes Anderson's family. We have Jared Gilman as Sam, the Boy Scout that falls in love with Susie, played by Cara Hayward. Mm-hmm. So 2 new additions, perfect additions to this film.
Yeah, they're both wonderful in this film.
They're wonderful, and it's just, this film is a dream, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, somebody new to the Wes Anderson family, Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yes.
What is he doing in this movie? Why is he in it?
Because he's a policeman. That's what he does best.
There's a great, because I watched this film last night I've got it on Blu-ray in the Criterion Collection, thank you very much. And there's a special feature on the Blu-ray, which is probably on YouTube, I'd imagine you should watch it if you haven't seen it, where Bill Murray does like a tour of the sets of the film. And he's doing it in his very sort of deadpan Bill Murray style. And there's a bit where he's describing who else is in the movie. And he says, Bruce Willis is in the movie, playing a detective, being typecast, I suppose. And yeah, I think that's if you're going to have a policeman in your film, Bruce Willis is the guy to call. Yeah. But it still feels mad to think. It still feels odd that Bruce Willis is in a Wes Anderson film. It's such a wild thing.
And also, it's so weird that Bruce Willis would go, "Oh yeah, I'll be in your film." Okay.
And also that Bruce Willis would go, "I'll actually try and I'll be good in it," which is an unusual thing for Bruce Willis in like the 2000s. Like, yeah, he often turns up to set physically, but not in spirit. Whereas I feel like he's actually good in this movie. Yeah, yeah, and I think also that's what Wes Anderson does. I think he can bring the best out of actors. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think he's brilliant. And this film is amazing. I love how one of my favorite things is just the tents in the Scouts. When the Scouts and Ed Norton plays the Scoutmaster. Is that what it's called? The head Scout, the Scoutmaster Ward. Yeah. And everything is so like, he's so serious about it, and all the tents are like lined up in the same way, and the beds are perfect, and Sam running away from the scout camp, instead of like going out of the door, like the scout tent, the tent normal door, he he makes a little circle and he cuts his way out of this tent. And it's so sweet. And he covers the hole with a poster, which is very funny. It's a very funny reference to Shawshank Redemption. It's so sweet, and then when they're on the beach, and it's clearly like they're like are in love, and they have another little tent, and the tent is perfectly like set up inside, and it's just the attention to detail and the fact that they're so magical, and it's just a fantasy, isn't it? Like a fantasy that a kid would have, or like a doll's house. It's just, for me, perfect. I definitely had like friends when I was about that age, like 10 years old kind of thing, where we'd talk about running away together and things, and it's a very true sort of fantasy of a child's life, is the idea of running away and camping out and hiding from the adults and stuff. It's really nice. Yeah, and they're lovely, and they dance. Oh, it's just I love this film. It's so cute, and it's definitely a good, and the fact that this kind of shows how Wes Anderson thinks that adults act like kids, but kids like adults, and in a way the two kids are like the most stable in this film full of adults. The kids are the most stable ones in the film. So yeah, and I love the way that they're quite different. They don't necessarily have the same interests that the two kids, but they really support each other, and there's never any question that they're in love. It's very sweet and nice and lovely. I really like it. Yeah. Good choice for number 2, G. Thank you. Good choice for number 2 with you as well. Also, Harvey Keitel. I think this is the first time he pops up in a Wes Anderson film, and he's very funny in his little role as a lead scout guy. Yeah, Harvey Keitel wearing a Scoutmaster's uniform is a great image. Oh, I love him. Yeah. Cool. There you go. So your number 2 is the Moonrise Kingdom. My number 2 is Moonrise Kingdom. Number 1. Your number 1. You can probably imagine what it is. No, I can't, because I thought it was going to be the Darjeeling Limited. Oh, my number 1, after having a little rewatch and rethink, kind of is his 2001 film, The Royal Tenenbaums. Wow, interesting pick. This is the first film I've ever watched by Wes Anderson. Yeah. And I watched it, I didn't get it, but then I wanted to watch it again. And I've watched it a lot, and I also have the soundtrack for this, because I think the soundtrack in this is incredible. Yeah. A bit like the Darjeeling Limited.
he uses like there's a sound, there is a score, but there's also like there's also like songs, and it's just a story of an interesting family, of like maybe a bit like Rushmore. There's these three these three geniuses who are children who grew up not to be that genius, and it's just the story about this dysfunctional family and the way they live. And I really like this film. I It's got an amazing cast. It's got the only time we have Gene Hackman in the picture for this film, and apparently Gene Hackman did not like working with Wes Anderson, and Wes Anderson has not said anything about working with Gene Hackman, but I think it was probably mutual. But it worked perfectly because Gene Hackman plays Royal Tenenbaum, a hateful person, and you believe that. He is horrible. You don't like Royal Tenenbaum at all throughout the film. Although at one point he redeems himself and he becomes quite funny, still, not great. There's also Gwyneth Paltrow as Margot Tenenbaum, one of the three brothers in the film. And I thought she was great in this film, so I'm not sure why she hasn't gone back to be in Wes Anderson films.
Well, I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, so I'm all right with that.
Oh, well, but I really liked. The thing is, I feel like he brought a really good side of Gwyneth Paltrow in this film. That was kind of like a not the perfect Gwyneth Paltrow, and I think she played Margot Tenenbaum really, really well.
I think she's really good in the Royal Tenenbaums. I like her character, but I don't like her as a person who peddles like pseudoscience and
absolutely. But I don't think she peddles pseudoscience in 2001, and maybe
not in
2001. In more Wes Anderson films, maybe she wouldn't give us like vagina candles. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Ridiculous person. But she is she the best actor in? No, probably not, but she's very good in the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
I love her character in the Royal Tenenbaums.
And then Ben Stiller and Luke Wilson are the other two brothers.
Yeah.
They're all very different. And then there's, again, Owen Wilson, Bill Murray. Danny Glover is in it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Not Donald Glover. Danny Glover.
Yeah.
Not the rapper, the actor. I love this film because I think it was my first experience of the Royal Tenenbaum, but there's something about it, from the costumes to the dialogues, to the weirdness of the family, to just the fact that there's some really funny moments to some really tragic moments. Like there's an attempt of suicide by Luke Wilson. Because and that's like one of the most incredible scenes in film, I feel, in my opinion. Needle in the Hay is playing, and he's just basically like in this like horrible bathroom, not horrible, but like really dark, and he shaves himself and it's kind of ritual, and then he attempts to kill himself, and that's genius filmmaking. And there's so many bits of this, and I think it's just the beginning of Wes Anderson's journey to being an incredible filmmaker. And I just love this film, and it's only his third film.
I think that's why, for me, I like the Royal Tenenbaums a lot, but it's not in my top 5 because I find it too upsetting. And I like Wes Anderson when he's more like, I like that he's mellowed out a bit as he's gotten older and become a bit less angsty, and his characters are a bit less prone to attempt to kill themselves, and they're more likely to go and hide in the woods with their girlfriend, or do you know what I mean? Like, and it's not so much a criticism of the Royal Tenenbaums, it's just in terms of what I get out of Wes Anderson films and what I enjoy. I find the Royal like I rewatched it for this list, and it probably fell off my top 5 on the rewatch because as good as it is, and it is a masterpiece. It doesn't make me laugh very much, and it makes me feel sad a lot. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love it.
No, it's a brilliant movie.
It kept going up and down, up and down. I was like, and then I decided like the most dysfunctional family won.
Yeah, I think we have different, because I don't like the Darjeeling Limited very much either. I think we have different things, which is interesting because people talk about Wes Anderson as being one thing, and if you like Wes Anderson movies, it's because you like that one thing he does. But I think we have very different reasons, not entirely different, but we definitely have different approaches to why we love his films so much, which I think is interesting. It shows that he is, I think there is more variety to his filmography than people allow.
Absolutely, because I love the family dynamic and the crazy family dynamic that is kind of it's hyped up, but it's kind of true.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can kind of tell that some of the family dynamics are kind of personal family dynamics of himself or some family members. So I kind of love the fact that it's in a film and you show like the craziness of a family, but also how as a family you can solve things. That's not the only thing I like, but it's one of the aspects that I like about Wes. And that's why, the Darjeeling Limited and the Royal Tenenbaums are really, I don't know, I really love them, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Moonrise Kingdom, because I wish I was a scout.
I just love... I love folk stuff. I love like outdoors and camping and all that stuff a lot. So the Moonrise Kingdom is like way within my wheelhouse, as is my number one pick, which is another sort of similar thing I adore.
I think I know what your number one pick is.
But your number one is Royal Tenenbaums. It's a good shout.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My number one is my favourite Wes Anderson movie is a 2009 American stop-motion animated film called Fantastic Mr. Fox.
So good.
Yeah. I adore this film so much. I think that every single second of it is just filled with... it just brings together two of my favourite things, because growing up, Roald Dahl was... And we can all retroactively agree that he was not a very nice man. He was an he was an admitted anti-Semite, and as on a personal level, there are big issues nowadays with Roald Dahl and his views. However, he did write some of the greatest children's literature of all time, and I think that those stories will hopefully stand the test of time. Broadly, there are problems with him. However, his stories are great. And Fantastic Mr. Fox might be my favourite of his stories, just generally. I really love it. I love the story of this fox leading this family of animals in a sort of crusade against evil, selfish farmers who are trying to kind of... keep them from enjoying the food that they grow. Boggis and Bunsen Bean, one fat, one short, one lean. These horrible crooks, so different in looks, are nonetheless equally mean. What a great, just such good writing from Roald Dahl. And then Wes Anderson comes in and makes a stop-motion animated film based on it, and sort of is able to, with such a distinctly British story, is able to bring his American sensibility to it in a way that I think personally works perfectly. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but people have heard people complaining about, for example, like he introduces this fake sport that's like a version of baseball into it, and people are like, oh, it's like baseball, no place for that, blah, blah. I don't care. It's to do with like setting pine cones on fire and throwing them at each other. Like it's fun. It's fun and visually exciting and weird and strange. And so we've got George Clooney in his only collaboration with Wes Anderson, I think, so far. Yeah. Along with Meryl Streep, and I think it's her only collaboration with with Wes Anderson as Mr. Fox and his wife, Mrs. Fox, and he is an incredible master thief at stealing chickens and other things from these free farmers, and he ends up having to protect an entire society of animals from the attempts of these farmers to kind of have them killed and gotten rid of. And we've got an incredible cast. Jason Schwartzman, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, Owen Wilson. You know, there's a lot of your usual collaborators in there, along with some new people. It's just really, really fun and entertaining. And I think that making an animated film did a lot for Wes Anderson's own instincts as a filmmaker, because I think the films before and after Fantastic Mr. Fox feel quite different. I think he learned a lot about set design and just the level of control he can have over a set. I think he probably enjoyed that in the animated films and then just decided to go for that in his live action movies as well. So Moonrise Kingdom, and then even more so the Grand Budapest Hotel, just feel like almost like animated movies, and he's manipulating actors around inside these dioramas, which some people is a reason they dislike Wes Anderson, but I don't know. I enjoy it. I like it. And it's just great. It's what is it? It's like it's 87 minutes long. It just flies by. It feels airy, but wonderful and fun and deep, and I just love it. I just absolutely love it and adore it. And I don't think there'll be another time that a filmmaker I like as much as this adapts with his own unique voice, an author that I like as much as this. So yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox is, for all of its lightness of touch and sort of, disposableness as being a children's movie, I think that it is a bit of a masterpiece, and I love it. It's my favourite Wes Anderson film. So there you go. That's Fantastic Mr. Fox. What do you think of it?
I love Fantastic.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. It is really good. It's just fun. It's fun to watch. I love the supermarket at the end. It's just so perfect how he just manages to like make this supermarket with all these like little things, and he just works with your imagination, doesn't he? He's so good at that. And, and bringing like a little bit of our childhood back. No, it's so good. Good choice.
Oh, and I love that when they have a fight, they fight like animals would fight and not like people. Yeah. And that when they swear, they just say cuss at each other. I love the little touches like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Good choice, man.
Thank you. So, do you want to run through your top 5 one more time?
Yes. Okay. So my number 5, The Grand Budapest Hotel. My number 4, I Love Dogs. My number 3, The Darjeeling Limited. My number 2, Moonrise Kingdom. And my number 1, The Royal Tenenbaums.
Delightful. My top 5 is number 5, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Number 4, Rushmore. Number 3, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Number 2, Moonrise Kingdom. And number 1, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Fantastic.
Which means we had relatively little, with just 2 movies in common, which is interesting.
Yeah.
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 It's exciting.
Definitely.
Shows what a good filmmaker is, that even with only 9 films, there can be 2 such different lists. There's not really, honourable mentions, just the rest of his filmography, I guess.
Or the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't have Isle of Dogs, Bottle Rocket, or the Royal Tenenbaums in there, but they could all equally be on there. So yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Homework time.
Yeah. Well, I guess you need to watch
Rushmore. Yeah. And you could watch something that I watched this week.
Which is
it's weird because the title in Italian is completely different from what the title is in English.
Right.
In Italian it's called The Last Yakuza, but in English it's called My First Love, I think.
Oh, the Takashi Miike film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can watch that. That sounds good, as long as I can find it.
But it's on I found it on Prime.
Cool. I'm sure it'll be on Prime.
First Love, that's what it's called. Which is
First
crazy
Love.
because it's called First Love, and then in Italian it's called The Last Yakuza, which makes no sense because it doesn't make any sense because I thought he was going to become a Yakuza, but he didn't. Spoiler alert. Yeah. And if you had to recommend anything from this week, what would you recommend?
I would recommend No Time to Die and Squid Game.
Fantastic. And I would recommend First Love and probably Montero. I think if you have time to listen to it, I think it's a good listen.
Cool. Yeah, no, we'll go with that. Montero
Yeah.
and First Love.
So I've given up on my hosting. I realised that I'm not very good at it.
Right,
so
okay,
George, you take the scepter back and you become the host with the most. Go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so thanks for joining us for our top 5 Wes Anderson movies. We're sticking with things that feel a little bit autumnal, a little bit sort of frosty. The things are getting cooler kind of vibes next week, and we're going to do our first episode focusing in on a particular band, and we are going to do our top 5 Radiohead songs.
I'm excited.
Very exciting. A truly Marmite band, so I'm sure some people listening might have just gone, but we both
Why?
love Radiohead. Well, they're not for everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say, but I love them, and they are celebrating currently the anniversaries of the Kid A and Amnesia albums. So it's as good a time as any to have a look over their discography and see how they're doing. Doing. They're getting on okay, and that's that next week. So join us for that, please, and check out the show notes of this episode and every episode for links to everything we discuss in Culture Catch Up and places you can find us on social media. We're most active on Instagram, where you can find all sorts of things from Alex's artwork to movie reviews and other things. So please go and have a look on there. It's wonderful. And follow us and tell your friends about us and download us and review us and everything else. It's going to be wonderful. Don't forget, I mentioned earlier, please send us lists for the end of year episode. Your favourite things of this year. Tell us what you have been enjoying particularly. It's going to be fun. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.